Hello, I'm Faith, and welcome to Faith's Take, where I talk about anything and everything that I find interesting. And welcome to my first ever read-aloud series, where I will be reading Kevin Murphy's A Year at the Movies, one man's film-going odyssey. Real quick, just if you want to get straight to the reading part, just click whatever little timestamp you see. If you want to skip all this little preamble and get straight to the reading, and that's fine. But for those of you wondering, hey, why are you in that old dining room? I thought you moved out of your parents' house into some other relatives. I did, but I'm house sitting, and I'm taking advantage of the fact that the house is empty, and I can record at 9 p.m. instead of like 2 a.m. And then when it comes to why I want to do this, it's the last couple years I'd been in college. As most of you know, I just graduated this past June, and when you are in college, especially, at least for me, the last thing you want to do in your free time is look at more words on a page. You know, it's like so much reading for me because there were online classes, there was a lot of book reading, and there was a lot of electronic reading, and your eyes just get tired, you don't want to do it anymore. So I got really behind and didn't read very much. And so I've been missing reading, and then, on the other hand, I've been missing reading aloud, because when I was a little younger, one of my sisters and I would get into a lot of the same, like, fantasy series at the same time, and I would read them aloud to her, so we could basically read them at the same time, instead of wait for one to finish, one book in the series, so then the other could read it. So I've been missing both reading and reading aloud, and I thought this would be a really fun, cool, different thing for me to do and for you guys to see. And while I'm gonna make it where this is like an audiobook format where you can just listen to me read it, I will try to put a few interesting things on screen, so if you want to actually watch it, you can do that too, and it's not just like something you have to put in the background or whatever. And then finally, this will be put into his own playlist. I'm thinking about a couple other books I'd also like to do this with, but I have to thank Kevin Murphy so much. I tweeted at him to make sure this was alright, so Kevin, if you're watching, thank you so much, sir, for letting me do this. I'm really excited. I love this book. I have read it no less than 4 times over the last 8 or 9 years that I've had it, so thank you very much again for letting me do this. I'm pumped to do this, because like I said, I've missed reading aloud and doing this kind of stuff. So I hope you guys are into this and want to hear it. Also, I apologize if I mispronounce anything. Kevin, again, if you're watching, I apologize if I butcher anything, if I read something with the absolute wrong cadence or inflection and the intention doesn't get across well. I apologize for all that. We're gonna dive right into this, and I think every episode of this is gonna be a couple chapters long because the chapters aren't super long. Enough of this, and let's dive right into A Year at the Movies, One Man's Film-Going Odyssey by Kevin Murphy. For Julie and Bill, my mom and dad, and for the audience. Prologue, December 31st, 2000. Beginning tomorrow, January 1st, 2001, I, Kevin Murphy, promise to go to a theater and watch a movie every single day for an entire year. In 52 chapters, one for each week of the year, I'll explore the world of moviegoing from the point of view of you and me, the regular crowd, the great demographic ocean. I will endeavor to experience every conceivable type of movie-going venue, from the mundane to the unique to the ridiculous, no matter where it takes me. I'll track down and visit the smallest movie theater in the world. I'll work in a multiplex for a short, painful stint. There's a theater in an igloo in Quebec. I have to go. I'll venue to Sundance and Cannes with no credentials and stand in line with the rest of the non-celebrity schmucks just trying to get a ticket. I'll live on nothing but movie theater food for a week. I found a tiny 90-year-old silent theater in the Australian bush. I'm there. I'm not planning to see a different movie in a different theater every day. I don't see the point unless what I'm doing is a stunt, which it isn't. Okay, maybe a little. But I want to be able to crawl around my local multiplexes and see what makes them tick. I want to be known by name at my favorite venues. I want to explore the same film under different conditions. For instance, I want to know if date movies still exist, so I plan to take 7 women out on a date to the same movie, much to the consternation of my spouse Jane. But I will, every day, endeavor to see the public presentation of at least one motion picture. In a theaterless emergency, I'll deploy my lifeboat, a pair of compact movie projectors, one 8mm and one 16mm, and a case of vintage films in both formats which I'll carry everywhere I travel. I'll put up the screen, get some chairs, and invite anyone within shouting distance to the lifeboat cinema. Admission is free. Since I'll be traveling on long overnight plane flights, in coach, mind you, to explore the movie-going world, I'll be counting airline films, since they are, after all, motion pictures exhibited publicly, albeit in the world's most expensive movie theaters. I'm ready and raring to go. For the entire month of December, I've engaged in a movie fast. Giving up movies is harder for me than abstaining from talking. I found myself calling my brother Chris, who teaches religion at Boston College, to see if there was some spiritual basis for a dispensation so I could watch It's a Wonderful Life. No dice. So I am dying to get out there. I'll witness nearly all of Hollywood's theatrical releases this year, plus tons of independents, shorts, festivals, animations, church screenings, sneak previews, and revivals. I'll watch them all. This isn't just a trip to a local chain, this is an expedition. So why am I doing this? What the hell is my deal anyway? Over the course of 10 years on the TV series Mystery Science Theater 3000, I hefted a 15-pound plastic puppet over my head for an obscene amount of money. I was also party to the review in whole or part of some 3,650 movies, roughly one movie per day, every day, for 10 years. Mostly they were bad films, but that was the intention. Often I would leave work with a sort of audiovisual numbness not dissimilar to placing an iron directly on the brain tissue and hitting the burst of steam button. I was losing my taste for movies. When the series ended in 1999 and I returned to theaters, I didn't like what I was seeing. Multiplexes were erupting around me like massive concrete sores. I began to notice fewer and fewer people happy as they left the theater, including me. Something had to be done, and I was the man to do it. 10 years of cinematic sink trap sludge had steeled me for it. MST3K made me a movie Iron Man, a cinematic decathlete, and now I needed a challenge worthy of my mettle. We've forgotten how to watch movies. We go to the multiplex, stare at the menu board, trundle off, stand in line, buy the snacks, sit down, stare at a large screen in a black box. It's like watching television in public. Worse, from the inside, all theaters look the same. Even fine old movie palaces, starkly updated, creep toward uniformity like Walmarts and allergy clinics. You could club me on the head in screen 12 of the Mall of America 14, bind me, gag me, blindfold me, fly me to Manhattan and dump me at screen 5 of the Times Square's AMC 25, and I wouldn't know the difference until I stepped outside. With the exception of that small and passionate band of American cinephiles, and you know who you are, we're buying products rather than experiences. Why am I no longer satisfied when I walk out of a film, even a good one? When was the last truly memorable experience I had watching a film? In the cold spring of 1981, while attending grad school in Madison, Wisconsin, my cousin Billy finagled us tickets to a sneak preview of a Steven Spielberg/George Lucas production. The title wasn't given. I'd loved Jaws, Close Encounters, and American Graffiti, and although the Star Wars series was kind of a dopey mess, it was great fun and revived an entire genre. These were two of my favorite filmmakers working together. It was at the Empire Theater on King Street, one of the oldest theaters in town, and sometime in the 60s the owners had added a screening room, 98 plush velvet seats with a brilliant screen and state-of-the-art stereo sound. Perfect. No previews, right into the film. There was an air of anticipation, refreshing at the dawn of the Reagan era. We'd be screening a film we knew absolutely nothing about. Good or bad, it was free. What the hell? It was Raiders of the Lost Ark. From the outset, each and every person in the theater got sucked in, laughing at the jokes, thrilling at the stunts, hissing at the Nazis. No cynicism, no jaded boredom, several eruptions of spontaneous cheering. It was a 115-minute roller coaster ride, the most wonderful experience I'd ever had in a movie theater, and I didn't even have a date. Events such as this are not just movies, but genuine adventures. The films themselves, removed from their context, amount to nothing. The company, the mood, the venue, they're as integral to a movie-going memory as they are to a romantic meal, a thrilling concert, a great ball game. Think of going to the south of France and eating at Wendy's, seeing Yo-Yo Ma in a shopping mall opening for a boy band. It just wouldn't be the same. Life amounts to what we experience, not what we consume, but I'm afraid we've become a nation of consumers. Is there any hope? That's what I want to find out. I want to immerse myself in the movie-going universe and report back that there's still hope and talent and energy out there. Ultimately, I want to know if the cinema's still alive. Are you with me? Grab your ticket and let's go. Week 1, January 1st through 7th. General Cinema Centennial Lakes 8 Edina, Vertical Limit. General Cinema Centennial Lakes 8 Edina, Castaway. Man St. Louis Park Cinema 6, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Man Hopkins Theater 6, Red Planet. General Cinema Mall of America 14, Wes Craven Presents Dracula 2000. Muller Family Theaters Lakeville 18, Chocolat. Imation IMAX Theater Minnesota Zoo, Dolphins/Galapagos 3D, double feature. My eyes, my spine, ah! Sitting in the front row. I am blasting right out of the gate with a test of physical endurance and agility. I'm watching 7 films from the front row of the theater. My first thought was that it might somehow bring me closer to the film-going or even filmmaking process. I was so wrong. Sitting in the front row hurts. I don't care how young or old you are, it's too close in most theaters and downright physically taxing in others. I saw 10-year-olds rubbing their necks and pivoting their backs like JFK on a bad day, and these weren't all pillowy little suburban pugslies either. A brace of seemingly fit teenage girls in tracksuits were compelled to move from the front row of Castaway before the movie even started. So why are these seats here? For one, kids love them, especially for action or space films. I noted kids running for the first row for the latest Star Wars movie. Poor stupid kids. Many of them moved back and several seemed damaged by the ear-splitting THX sound, but I understand the sentiment. Somehow the front row promises to pull you right into the fantasy world up there. If it fills your whole field of vision, how can you not become a part of it? Well, you don't. You remain behind the glass looking in. At a live performance with actors or musicians, the front row affords immediacy to the action on the stage, which occasionally is so profound you can find yourself feeling you're actually part of the performance, which means you may want to avoid this row when attending Tony performance art pieces or Gallagher shows. But the front row in a movie theater only shows you just how large body parts can seem and still be in focus. Here's a little scientific experiment. Part 1. Imagine standing 6 inches away from a figure who's compelling in some way. Let's say, for example, how about Charlize Theron? There she is, 6 inches away from you, so close you can hear her breathe, smell her parfum. She doesn't see you, she's trying to shake some ass-kissing vampire from Vanity Fair, so you just get a touch closer. You can even see the wispy fine baby hairs on her upper lip and that mole thing she has going on her neck, either of which on a person less drawn in your mind as a human vessel of raw erotic power would cause you to back off quickly. But not with Charlize, no siree Bob. No, from 6 inches away without doing a thing, she compels you to act like a rutting baboon, forsaking all other familial and intimate relations you may have in your life, chucking it all into the breach on the patently vain hope that she would turn around and see you, and then Charlize Theron would say hello in a manner so dense with meaning it would take a week to unpack. Footnote 1. You're in line at a buffet table behind her, I forgot to mention that. Oh, and she's getting herself some raw oysters, a whole plate of them. Remember, this is a scientific exercise. Part 2. Go stand 6 inches away from a picture of Charlize Theron. There she is, 6 inches away, so close you can smell the paper and the tang of soy ink mixed with a cologne sampler. Here, Charlize will never turn around, because you are looking at a picture from 6 inches away, you moron. And the closest you may ever get to the woman is in the hands of a cop who's cuffing you outside her window at 4 a.m. If you wish, please substitute Wesley Snipes, Christine Todd Whitman, or maybe RuPaul for Miss Theron in the above experiment, taking care to adjust for perfume or cologne. The point is that a movie does not get better as you get closer. In fact, I'm here to tell you it gets worse. There's a special place in every theater where the cinematographer, the editor, and the sound designer all like to sit, and that's about halfway back in the auditorium, dead in the middle. From there, the screen fills your field of vision without overcrowding, and the three-dimensional imaging of modern sound design presents its own stage, perfectly balanced and presented for this part of the auditorium. But in the front row, things get distorted, special effects fall apart, and the experience takes on grotesque aspects, which I'll describe anon. Aesthetic experience aside, the actual physical experience of the front row is nothing short of daunting. At the end of the week, I consulted a chiropractor, Dr. Bruce Lindbergh here in Bloomington, Minnesota, who gave me a brief examination and determined that there was nothing wrong with me. I think he knew I just wanted a professional opinion and a few pithy quotes. It seems that logging one's neck in the same position for an extended period of time will undoubtedly cause stress, particularly on the trapezius muscles, which if you follow wrestling you'd recognize as the Goldberg muscles. Imagine cradling a phone in the crook of your neck for 2 hours. That's the effect. Dr. Lindbergh affirmed the fundamental rule. If it hurts, don't do it. If it hurts but you must do it as little as possible. If you're writing a book and agreed like the bozo you are to sit in the front row of a movie theater for a week, consult a health professional. The first movie I saw from the front row was Vertical Limit. By the time you read these words, Vertical Limit will probably be available for $1 at the local Goodwill. The special effects in Vertical Limit don't actually rate the use of the adjective special, because they're merely effects, almost like symptoms, and from the front row they reveal themselves in their full computerized glory. There's no illusion here. You see those climbers and their daring feats as nothing more than composited images. It's no tragedy though, because it ruins no one's illusion that this is a good film. So far, the most frightening movie I've seen up close is Castaway, if for no other reasons than the sheer size and constancy of nostril presentation. Cinematographer Don Burgess, Forrest Gump, Summer Camp Nightmare, chose to shoot a wealth of close-ups at or slightly below eye level, which affords a good view of the nostril area on most conventionally built human faces. This is not uncommon, it's the way we look at people slightly taller than ourselves. It's a subtle way of building integrity and respectability into a character simply by means of portraiture. In the front row, it's an invitation to a nightmare! I saw Castaway in a modest multiplex theater on a screen 32 feet wide by 17 feet 4 inches high. The front row was set back 13 feet 3 inches from the screen to the bridge of the nose of my uncomfortably seated spouse Jane. Now, Tom Hanks has a pleasant enough face, which is good because you have to look at it for 2 hours and 23 minutes. And from 13 feet 3 inches away, Mr. Hanks' proportional measurements are monstrous, including an ear a full 8 feet in height. I refuse to talk about the front row screening of Grinch until I have been to a counselor. Red Planet, a hard-boiled science fiction with capital letters sort of movie, was merely annoying as I was only 12 feet away from the screen. It was like watching a tennis match. Wes Craven Presents Dracula 2000 was not a bad film, just terribly conventional. The front row experience was simply painful. The closeness only served to make the effects seem token and obligatory, and I came away from the experience convinced that I now know what the inside of Rob Zombie's head must look like. My favorite front row film was a complete surprise, Lasse Hallström's excellent Chocolat. I saw it in an old theater in a very comfortable front row a full 20 feet away from the screen. This is a simple, small film, full of character portraits and intimate moments. Visually, it has a splendid palette, better than any of the week's other films, with the oppressive Letten grey of northern France set off by the luscious reds worn by Juliette Binoche and the sumptuousness of all that chocolate. I capped off the week with 2 documentaries in the breathtaking IMAX theater at the Minnesota Zoo. I believe I'm not exaggerating when I suggest that the screen is 700 feet high and 930 feet wide. They wouldn't let me jump down and measure it, so I had to guess. You should know that I once guessed the weight of the diminutive Mexican actor Cantinflas at a whopping 700 pounds, so take my estimate with a grain of salt. I'd like to say that the double feature of Dolphins and Galapagos 3D was my favorite front row experience, just because I love IMAX enough to dedicate a chapter of this book to it. But I can't do that. As stunning as the IMAX picture is, and as carefully as IMAX theaters are laid out to afford everyone the best possible view, it's just too big a screen, and being that close detracts from the amazing sharpness and detail of the picture. In fact, as I snuggled into the front row, a concerned usher tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You might want to move back. It really doesn't work from here." And that's my final front row postulate. It really doesn't work from here. So why are the seats so damn close if it doesn't work? The answer is as simple as a 4-letter word. $, $, $. I'll give some credit to any theater that sets the front row back at least 20 feet from a good-sized screen, and I might even sit there if I have no choice, as long as I have my trusty inflatable neck pillow. Week 2, January 8th through 15th. Muller Family Theaters, Lakeville 18. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Date. Carmack Apple Valley 18. Dude, Where's My Car? Regal Cinema Egan 16. Proof of Life. Regal Brooklyn Center 20. Miss Congeniality. Muller Family Theaters, Lakeville 18. Chocolat. Date. Coon Rapids Carasotis Showplace 16. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Carmack Cinemas Oakdale 20. 13 days. A week at the Googleplex. Fear of cinema in the suburbs. This week, for as many days as I can stand it, I'm visiting theaters with more than 18 screens. The term multiplex is too benign. I heard Tom Hanks call them tetrahedroplexes. I call them Googleplexes. Whatever the term, they are the unstoppable wave of the future. In truth, although the seats are very comfortable and the screens are clean and bright and the sound is first rate, I get the feeling I'm going into a sensory deprivation tank to take part in some sort of mass experiment. Often enough, it's true. I hate these giant blockhouses stuffed with cushy, charmless, high-tech screening tombs. These monstrosities where you order your movie like a fast food meal combo and the experience has all the memorable charm of said meal. Some people will argue that beyond a good print, good sound, and comfortable seats, a theater might as well be a black box. These people are simply wrong. They're wrong because the films are being designed to fit the market, and that's us, the poor bleeding yous who show up at the Googleplex and order a film like a number 3 combo Biggie-sized. As long as the industry sells film like a product, we'll continue to buy it as such. I blame television, the greatest complacency generator and product delivery system since the devil introduced sin, which means that as a television producer, I'm partly responsible. I'm sorry. I have an unhealthy fantasy, a sort of oracular nightmare of the future, in which movies don't have titles, they have versions. A light comedy is a light com. A subset then, such as a drippy Nora Ephron-style extra womany movie, is a light com 5.2 NE. Plot? Character? Story? Setting? Context? Point of view? Screw that noise, who really cares? You know how you want to feel, and Lightcom 5.2 NE will do it for you. In my fantasy, these theaters have installed all manner of scientific gadgets in the seats. There are galvanic skin sensors and EKGs and eye movement measurement devices to monitor people's psychophysiological reactions to the movie. It's all probably a lot more accurate than a focus group anyway. Most people wouldn't mind, especially if you give them a couple of free movie passes. It all sounds far-fetched, but if you told me when I was 10 that I'd be going to an 18-screen theater to have my choice of pretty much every current Hollywood release, I would have thought you were crazy, and I also would have thought it sounded really cool. In theory, Googleplexes are really cool. All these movies at your fingertips in terrific little theaters with stadium seating so the guy with the afro doesn't prompt you to move, retractable armrests with built-in drink holders, double-wide seats for couples or hairy knolls, state-of-the-art projection systems, sounds, and screens. I decided I ought to give them a shot before I thoroughly condemned them. So I did the whole deal, tried to have the full modern movie-going event. I drove to suburban theaters in a sport utility vehicle. I picked my movies and times on my cell phone in my car on the way to the theater. Footnote 2. You'll be happy to know I pulled over first. I would have bought my tickets using my cell phone like the trim, sexy, phone-toting hip-hoppers in the Verizon wireless ads, but setting up my cell phone to do this would require more time than driving to work, earning the necessary money for the movie, driving to the bank, cashing the check, driving to the theater, and purchasing the ticket. My first stop was the Muller Family Theaters Lakeville 18. It's the Googleplex closest to my home and still a good half-hour away from the freeway. From the highway, the Lakeville 18 looks like a displaced airport terminal. Acres of sand-colored brick bereft of any style, with a parking lot I believe actually used to be Iowa. Inside it has 18 theaters, 100 yards of concession stands, and a lobby that could comfortably contain Cirque du Soleil. Each popular new release is available from noon until midnight, and there's even room for the odd Miramaxian independent to nab a screen now and then. I saw 6 films of varying quality and genre, and there was just one I'll remember a year from now. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The rest of them were stunningly formulaic, recombinant stories told much better elsewhere. Proof of Life, Action Drum 3.1 with a Meg Ryan plugin, greatly bolsters my opinion that Meg Ryan has no talent other than being just as cute as a little button. Miss Congeniality, Lightcom 4.1, available in Jimmy Smits or Benjamin Bratt versions, with the equally cute as a button Sandra Bullock, also features William Shatner. I used to love Shatner's hammy melodramatic acting style, but now he has become a sad parody of himself, and in this genuinely stupid comedy about the FBI infiltrating a beauty pageant, he is proven to be the Burt Parks of our time. But first I saw Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Actually, I saw it twice. Thank God for the Coen brothers. In hit-or-miss fashion, Joel and Ethan Coen are slowly creating a body of cinematic literature that will long outlive their careers. Their newest comedy is Classic, a direct link to Aristophanes, addressing broad cultural themes by presenting low, mimetic comic buffoons battered by their society, blundering through their lives. It's chaotic, unstrung, all over the place, unreal, and it's a work of art. I contrast this experience with seeing Dude, Where's My Car? At the equally massive Carmike Cinema's Apple Valley 18. Oh Brother and Dude are not dissimilar, both have dumb comic heroes trying to get back something they lost. The principal difference is that Oh Brother is sublime and Dude is a 100-minute lump of infected pig offal. But what am I expecting? Folks aren't here to experience le cinéma. Nope, they don't want to be challenged, they're here to be entertained. I saw a Dude in a theater peppered with teenage dudes with their hats on backwards in an otherwise empty auditorium. This was the target audience. Nobody laughed. Were they entertained? I asked one of these kids, was that entertaining? He shrugged and said, it was alright, I guess. Again, I asked him if he'd been entertained, and he got uncomfortable and said he wasn't sure what I meant. Being entertained now seems to require no effort on the part of the entertained. They just have to show up. Nowhere was this more clear than the Coon Rapids Carasota's Showplace 16. Walking into the Showplace 16, you enter what looks like a small international airport run by teenagers. Impeccably clean, cavernous, and lit in the daytime by a massive glass wall reminiscent of the old LAX main terminal. The choked mob of Saturday night moviegoers are cordoned into several lines at the ticket desks, and then through what looks like a massive metal detector staffed by a dour, middle-aged white man wearing a painfully ugly bright blue hat. In fact, everyone on the staff is wearing one of these supposedly jaunty, ultramarine English driving caps with varying degrees of failure. The young friendly fellow behind the ticket desk smiled when I asked him, "Do they make you wear those hats?" He looked around for a moment and said bluntly, "Hey, do you think I'd wear this if I had a choice?" Nobody is smiling. Everyone is getting somewhere. Films let in and out every 10 minutes or so. Screening rooms line concourses and folks file in, get entertained, file out. This is the death of cinema right here, folks. This is hell. The last film of the week was 13 Days, which I saw at the biggest theater of them all, the Oakdale 20. From the outside, it looks a little less like an airport and more like a casino. I took in a matinee on Sub-Zero Sunday, and the place was empty. All those screens, all those loser movies. The auditorium for 13 Days was magnificent, well laid out, extremely comfortable seating, terrific sound. And of course it's a shame that it's 30 miles from the urban center and showing the likes of 13 Days. It could have been a good film, and it didn't really need Kevin Costner, who plays Kenny O'Donnell, part of Kennedy's Irish Mafia. The O'Donnell of history did have a tangible place in the Kennedy administration and was a confidant of the president. But as retooled by this film, it feels like Costner took all the classic portraits of the Kennedys and pasted his own lumpy kisser onto them, like an imposter trying to rewrite history. On my way back home, I noticed that several of the cars leaving the theater went to a Walmart next door. Then I understood what was bothering me. The pod people have won, and everything is fine and wonderful. What have we gained with the Googleplex? A consistent level of product delivered with a dependable level of convenience to a consumer base that wants their money's worth every time and gets it. And what have we lost in the process? Only passion, risk, and community. In short, the things that make public art like cinema both public and art. These Googleplexes are cinematic Walmarts, staffed by proles trained in corporate employee rules of order. After a solid week of Googleplexing, I have mixed feelings. Part of me wants to picket them in a Nader-like crusade simply to wake people up. When I see the dull blank faces of people filing into Proof of Life, and see the same dull blank faces come out, it makes me want to cry. At least people who saw Chocolat were moved. The people who saw Brother Where Art Thou were either giddy or pissed off. But they felt something. I'd like to see these massive, overbuilt and underutilized venues screen things way off-center like a Cocteau festival or a series of band films. It's a shame that the country's best screens are being used for the country's stupidest films. But hey, I'm a snob, and the Googleplex is no place for a snob. So I'll come here to see massive, galaxy-wide blockbusters when they come out. If I'm going to be desensitized into a mindless stock animal, I may as well do it with a cushy ergonomic seat and magnificent THX-certified sound. Week 3, January 15th through the 21st. City Club Cinema, Grumpy's Bar, Minneapolis. Strozik. Landmark Lagoon Cinema, Minneapolis. Staten, Maine. General Cinema Mall of America 14. Antitrust. Uptown Theater, Minneapolis. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. General Cinema Mall of America 14. Snatch. Oak Street Cinema, Minneapolis. Hong Kong series, Last Hero in China. General Cinema Mall of America 14. Traffic. Monday night at Grumpy's Bar, the City Club Cinema. Near the ill-fated marshmallow dome of the Hubert Humphrey Stadium, across the wide boulevard from the liquor depot, Grumpy's Bar has the smoke-filled charm of a bingo hall. The bartender looks like Moby. If you don't know Moby, think instead of Dustin Hoffman in Papillon, only a bit taller. I order a beer and present a coupon. He gives me a practiced you smile. The entire economy of the upper Midwest runs on coupons. Coupons are the script that entices us suburbanites out of our recliners and into the downtown venues. Coupons are currency, and we carry them around in books the size of Sunday school Bibles. They're worth more to us than cash because they imply something that's free, and if something is free, it must be worth something. Otherwise, why would there be a coupon for it? Presenting a coupon to the bartender strips away any pretense of Tom Waits-style cool my leather car coat and my American Spirit cigarette may have given me. I am laid bare as a suburban yutz, too cheap to buy my own beer. I slink into the back room for tonight's screening. Monday night is movie night at Grumpy's, home of the City Club Cinema. My friend Peter Ruddred and his pal Kevin Karpinski, and a small group of cinephiles calling themselves National Projects, comb the world's 16mm catalogs for the most obscure and delightfully nostalgic films. These guys don't make a penny. They do it because they love it, which is the very best reason to watch movies. Free movies. $1 off on beer every Monday night. You can smoke a cigar. How can you not go? If I were a late-stage alcoholic with a lot of cash, I could die in a place like this. Rough but clean, no vomit in the bathroom sink, and a terrific Midwestern menu. Somehow Grumpy's remembered the food. Monday night, outside of football season, is tomb-like for most bars, so Grumpy's was happy to offer its narrow back room for City Club Cinema. The back room is actually nicer than the bar proper, intimate and comfortable, bare brick walls warmed by tiny lamps on the bar height tables. There's a garage door in the back of the room and tables outside for nice summer evenings. The menu offers myriad forms of serum cholesterol. I ordered a half rack of ribs and a full order of tater tots. Also, allow me to sing of tater tots. These are nuggets of bliss, small prayers answered by the flinty russet fields of Idaho. Potatoes fresh as an autumn dawn, fried deep, oh so deep, right down to their very souls. Potatoes so well coddled and lovingly cared for are bound to be grateful for their tuberous vegetable lives, and being so loved, they in return extend every bit of potatoy flavor outward from themselves as they die, not unlike the Buddha, reclining on his side, growing to massive proportions as he transformed from this life to the next, the confines of the earth no longer large enough to contain the boundlessness of his nature. I might simply have said that these are damn good tater tots, but I doubt you would have taken me at my word. Tonight my tater tots accompany Werner Herzog's 1977 foray into America, Strozik. I have very broad cinematic tastes, but they don't include depressing German films. I always feel that life is miserable enough without dwelling on it, but directors like Herzog and Fassbinder and Wim Wenders seem to revel in it. But for sheer depression, Herzog is your man. Strozik is about a miserable man who moves to Wisconsin to become even more miserable, and then he kills himself. The end. And Herzog manages to make Wisconsin, beautiful Wisconsin, look like the bleakest landscape on the earth, like Siberia, or even worse, Nevada. My favorite City Club Cinema memory is last fall's screening of Duel, Steven Spielberg's debut movie, made for television, a document and tribute to his talent as a filmmaker. Duel is a pure suspense film. In fact, it contains almost nothing but suspense. A business guy, an average Joe, drives across the desert late for an appointment. He tries to pass a clankety fuel truck. The truck won't let him. Average Joe guns by, but soon finds the same truck bearing down on him. The duel begins. Duel stars Dennis Weaver, which surprisingly doesn't hurt the film too much. We never see the menacing truck driver, but in my 70s-tuned imagination, I like to think it was Claude Akins, the ham-faced fellow best known for the TV truck opera Movin' On. I fancy Duel as the classic truck-based television pairing, forces of good and evil portrayed by Dennis Weaver and Claude Akins, respectively. See this movie if you can, and above all, see it projected. Spielberg films, especially the early ones, are best seen in public, if for no other reason than the fact that they can make the whole room gasp. Spielberg films are full of gross stuff, like people getting ripped, bitten, sliced, and otherwise segmented into chunks, and he throws snakes and bugs around like rice at a wedding. But he shows the gross stuff with a cold eye and a brutal, sharp-focused authenticity, using none of the grandeur or morbidity found in virtually every horror film of the past 10 years. I've seen Duel a dozen times, and I still cringe and gasp at all the right places. So, I was very much looking forward to seeing it projected with a beer and tater tot buzz workin'. But before the screening, my friend Peter, who was running the show that night, sheepishly approached my table and quietly showed me the Duel film can. The distributor had sent him a chop job of the film, what they called a condensed version, 90 minutes of vintage Spielberg cut down to 23. I wondered what possible market there could be for this and came up with no answer. First of all, making a condensed version of a movie, then continuing to call it the same movie, is like pouring vodka and grape juice and calling it wine. Only the connective tissue remains and all the best parts evaporate in the reduction process. This is not a sauce, it's a film. It oughtn't to be reduced. So I sadly watched the condensed version and sighed throughout. The tension was non-existent, the collective gasp never materialized, and worst of all, my tater tots got cold. But I'll return to Grumpy's for the City Club Cinema every Monday night that I can manage. It's an adventure in film watching, the process having as many twists, turns, and surprises as the films themselves. Maybe even more. I applaud Peter and Kevin for showing movies for the sheer love of it, and for reaching way back into the film vault. Next week is Lee Marvin, and I can only hope we don't get the condensed version of Cat Ballou. So with that, we covered the prologue and the first 3 chapters, which I think about 3 chapters is probably pretty good. The chapters aren't too long in this, so I think 3 is probably a good average we'll take with these videos. You know, I hope that you guys are enjoying this because I have a lot of fun reading out loud. And I actually have a couple other books that I want to do after this one already. Like if you guys like this, if we can keep doing this, because I enjoyed it at least. And also, I meant to say this at the beginning, but pick up this book, regardless of me reading it. Like, pick it up. It's on Amazon. I will put links in the description and all that jazz because, like, I think everyone needs to read this. I love books like this that are about film and the film industry in any way, shape, or form, and the fact that it is Kevin and it's someone that we all know and love just makes it even better. Again, Kevin, if you watched this, thank you so much for letting me do this. I've had fun so far, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed all this and that you'll keep watching as they come out. So thanks again, and I'll see you guys later.